Hello lovely people. Today I want to talk about brain plasticity, or the way that the brain can rewire itself. So it used to be thought that the brain was wired when we were born and we learnt things and then it was hardwired like that forever, which isn't true, thankfully. We've also probably all heard of the little verse which is the brain pathways that fire together wire together, which means the more often we think a particular thing, the more often we have a stimulus and an automatic response, the more deeply wired that brain pathway is until we don't even need to think about it anymore. The stimulus happens and the response happens within our brains so quickly that we don't have any choice about it. So that's not very helpful when it's just happening all by itself, but what is really cool about it is that we can rewire our brains for how we actually want them to be. So the analogy that I like to use for this is sheep tracks on a hill. So being from New Zealand, up on the hills, all of us have seen the sheep tracks where the sheep, if they want to move from one part of the hill to the other part of the hill, they all follow each other along the track. It's the easiest way to get there, right? So that's like the brain pathways on the hill. The track is the most easily used pathway that the sheep use over and over and over again. So if we want to put in a new pathway, so the old pathway might be lots of negative self-talk. That's the old sheep track. So you and I are going to go up onto the hill, and the hill is the brain, and we remove all the sheep, and we're going to create a new brain pathway, a new track. So we start off by the old sheep track, we're a meter up from the old sheep track, and we're creating a new brain pathway. So we walk along a meter up from the sheep track, making this new track. It's really hard work. We're going to fall in rabbit holes, we're going to trip over rocks, we're going to get pissed off, we're going to be cursing and swearing, and now and then we're going to think, why don't we just walk on the old pathway? It's so much easier. And now and then we might actually forget, right? And we walk back on the old pathway and then we remember like, oh, hang on, we're making this new pathway. So we go back up onto the hill. And when we've gone along the whole way, we can look back and we can see that the grass is a little bit flattened down where we've been walking. And we can just faintly see where we've been. And if we do that day after day after day, and we keep the sheep off the hill, the old track is going to start growing over, and the new pathway is going to get clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer, to the point where if we brought sheep back onto the hill, they'd probably use the new pathway. So it does take some effort initially, although the more we do it, the easier it gets. Obviously, the more we walk that track, the easier it gets, right? So if the new pathway is a different set of thinking, so instead of thinking bad, negative thoughts about ourselves, that's the old pathway, we jump to thinking positive things about ourselves. That's how we start rewiring. And each time we notice we've jumped down to the other track, because that's the habitual way we do it, we don't give ourselves a telling off, we just move back to the new track and carry on along there, just developing that one more and more and more. So we don't deny that there's the old track down there. We don't pretend it's not there. We just notice it and say, I'm choosing to go on this one instead. And that's how we rewire our brain, which is super, super cool. So we don't ignore the old track that's there. We just focus on the track that we do want to go on, and we make a concerted effort to use that as much as possible. And then that gets so habitual that the new pathway is used all the time. So have a try with that. Choose something that you often think, or something you react with over and over again, and think about what you would rather think or what you would rather do, and start making a concerted effort to do the new thing. See how you go with that.